heard a whisper, a small, still voice. That's what brought him out. When Elijah heard it, he knew that it was God's voice. He wrapped his head and he came out at the whisper. All of those outward manifestations, all of that big noise didn't speak to Elijah, but that still small voice did. When he heard it, he recognized that it was the voice of God, and him. And bring us out of our caves that we're hiding in is the still small voice of God. His voice, his words are the only thing that can bring us life. How many of you are hiding in a cave right now? Because you fled. You fled from the will of God. Whatever the reason might have been, you fled from God's assignment. You fled from God's will, and you're hiding in caves. Why? Sometimes it's out of fear, and sometimes it's out of situations that haven't gone the way we thought they should. Sometimes it's because of discouragement. There are all kinds of reasons that we might have, all kinds of things that can cause the people of God to hide from him. We can be dominated by fear. We can be dominated by insecurities. And what we really need to hear is that still small voice. So when Elijah heard it, he was able to leave the cave and come out and hear what God wanted to say to him. And what's funny is that Elijah comes out after all of this ruckus. He hears the still small voice. And when he comes out, what does God say? He says the exact same thing that he said before. What are you doing here, Elijah? You see, God didn't change the message. The question was still the same. What are you doing here? You run, you fled, you hear, now you know it's me, and I'm asking you, what are you doing here? But how did Elijah respond? In the exact same way that he did before too. Look, God, I was jealous for you, and now these people trying to kill me. The same response is what he gave. God was still trying to get an honest answer for him, but Elijah seems to be occupied with himself and his failings. And he's not really seeing what God is trying to show him. He just repeats the same thing. He goes back to his feelings. He goes back to what he's seeing, those circumstances that are surrounding him. What happens is that he thinks he's left alone. They trying to get him. He feels like he's by himself. So what does God do? He speaks to Elijah. He says, go and return.